Hey everyone, and welcome to the Imagineer podcast on Facebook Live. I am your host, Matthew Kroll, and we're here to talk about all things D23 related, because of course we had a lot of announcements that came out from Disney at the Expo last weekend, and so I want to chat with all of you about what you think, what your thoughts are regarding D23, what you felt was either expected or what surprised you or what you were hoping to see that wasn't announced, whether it be between the parks or the movies or the Disney Legends announcements or anything else that you thought to be surprising or exciting coming out of the Expo this year. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts, your questions, your comments. If you are watching us on Facebook Live, I definitely want to know where you're listening from, where you're watching from. So go ahead and put those in the comments. And if you're watching the recorded version, of course, we hope you enjoy the show as well, and hope you join us again next time for a future Facebook Live post. So I want to, and on the other thing, I want to go ahead and encourage you all, if you don't already, to like our page, the Imagineer Podcast, and follow us, and definitely engage with us on Facebook, and let us know, whether it's regarding D23 or anything else, what you love about Disney and about the announcements. So you have a couple of people coming into the room already, and again, we're here to chat about D23. So before anything else, I just kind of want to do a recap of what was announced this past weekend between the parks and the resorts, as well as the some of the movie announcements that came out too, because there was quite a bit. If you're just joining, definitely let us know where you're watching from, and hopefully get to engage with you all in just a few minutes. But I want to start with the announcements for the parks, because there were quite a number of them that Disney announced at D23. Some of the parks they announced more than others. Just going kind of in order, the first park was Magic Kingdom. There wasn't a terrible amount that was announced this year, but they did make an announcement regarding 2 attractions that are coming to the Magic Kingdom. And the first is, which I think a lot of fans were hoping for and expecting, the Tron coaster coming to Tomorrowland. And there was some discussion and fear about the fact that it might be replacing the Tomorrowland Indy Speedway, but I think a lot of fans, myself included, were happy to see that it's not going to replace anything, but it's going to be built in its own entirely different area of the Magic Kingdom, sort of in this space next to Space Mountain. And the other one coming to Main Street being the Willis Theater that is inspired by the old Kansas City Willis Theater from the 1930s. So going back again to Walt's history and bringing a little bit of Walt's history and where he grew up to Main Street and a little bit of that Old Town American feel. But other than that, there's really not too much that came out from the Magic Kingdom. So if you, well, first of all, between those two, which one are you more excited about, between the Tron coaster or the Willis Theater? And they didn't announce what was going to be in the Willis Theater, but what do you expect to see? Is it going to be a show similar to Great Moments with Abe Lincoln, similar to what's over at Disneyland, or are we going to see something else over at the D23 or over at the Magic Kingdom? The other park that didn't announce a terrible amount, not compared to what we were expecting, was over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. First of which being this, the big announcement really that was over there. We already knew about Star Wars Land and Toy Story Land since from the previous D23, but this year they gave a pretty big announcement with the fact that one of the original attractions from 1989, the Great Movie Ride, was going to be replaced with a new attraction, being Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. We saw that there's going to be this concept of 2.5D, this idea of a 3D ride without the 3D glasses being needed, and it's going to take you into this short, this Pixar animated short, this Mickey and Minnie animated short, and make you feel like you're in the middle of an actual Mickey cartoon. First attraction that is themed completely around Mickey Mouse, first ride completely themed around Mickey Mouse, which is amazing that there hasn't really been anything in the studios or anywhere else completely about Mickey. And don't know too many more details other than that, but it should be, oh, and the other thing is going to be more hidden Mickeys on this attraction than anything else, which should be pretty difficult to spot them all, but I know there's going to be a lot of hidden Mickey fans that are going to be looking out for them. They didn't announce too much more between Toy Story Land and Star Wars land, other than the fact that Toy Story Land is going to be opening already in the summer of 2018, which is really needed for Hollywood studios, as well as the name of Star Wars Land being Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. But other than that, we already knew about the Millennium Falcon attraction. We already knew about the other attractions going to take you into this battle between the Resistance and the First Order. Between those two attractions, let us know which one you were more excited to see, if you have any questions about them, or if you have any thoughts regarding these two attractions, which one you would go to first on the opening day of Star Wars Land, or which you would book your FastPass Plus reservation for first on that trip. Let us know in the comments below. But other than that, Disney's Hollywood Studios didn't see too many other announcements. We saw a lot more, though, coming out of... We didn't see any for Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is not too much of a surprise with everything that just opened this past year. But we saw a lot coming from Epcot. So we saw the Guardians of the Galaxy e-ticket attraction replacing Ellen's Energy Adventure, to the sadness of many guests, and a lot of guests are happy to see a new Guardians of the Galaxy attraction being brought to the East Coast with Walt Disney World. But again, there was a lot of sadness around the Universe of Energy, or I should say Ellen's Energy Adventure, actually closing on August 13th. So if you were expecting or hoping to ride that one more time, definitely you're going to want to check that out before August 13th, before it officially closes. But I'm excited to see what they do with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think we'll see some more announcements coming out in the next couple of years regarding that attraction. But moving into World Showcase, we also heard that there's going to be a new Ratatouille attraction based on the ride over at Disneyland Paris, this trackless ride coming to Epcot based on the Ratatouille. Not going to replace anything, but will just be going behind the France Pavilion, behind the Eiffel Tower, as well as China getting a refurbishment for its 360 movie, going to be completely digital. Not something that I think some people were expecting, and the rumors were that it might be a Mulan attraction, but it sounds like it's probably just going to be a replica of what's there, sort of refreshing and updating the very outdated China movie with something a little fresher, a little more digital, and has to do a lot more with what China is like today. And then the other thing that they talked about was over at Mission Space, that we're going to have a new green version of this attraction that will be more like a Soarin' over the world, where you get this orbital experience, tamer than the orange mission, and more of an entry point for younger guests, or those who are more prone to motion sickness with the orange version, to have a more tame experience, and then eventually maybe work your way up to the orange mission, as well as a new restaurant that's coming over to Epcot and near Mission Space that is completely space themed. Moving over to the West Coast, we saw that in Disneyland, again, the same announcements for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and we heard that the Pixar Play Parade is going to be moving from Disney's California Adventure over to Disneyland Park itself. And then over at Disney's California Adventure, we heard that the big announcement was that all the rumors were really true, and Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout is just the start. We're going to see an entire land dedicated to Marvel. And I know a lot of fans of Marvel and Disney were hoping to see this. If you're one of those fans, definitely let us know what you think about this, or if you're sad to see maybe some attractions going away with the Marvel Land edition, which is not necessarily confirmed, but likely it will replace either a Bugs Land or the Sunset Boulevard area of Disney's California Adventure. Let us know what you think about that. But we should be seeing Spider-Man and the Avengers join the crew of Guardians of the Galaxy over at California Adventure in the next few years, with, I'm sure, more details to come. Also heard about Pixar Pier, that is going to replace Paradise Pier, sort of this retheming of Paradise Pier over at California Adventure. Paint the Night Parade is going to be coming to Disney's California Adventure. I know a lot of guests at Disneyland, fans of Disneyland, and locals especially, were happy to hear Paint the Night coming back, going to be over at Disney's California Adventure. And also, John Lasseter came out to announce that we're going to see some Halloween theming over at Radiator Springs starting this Halloween. So if you're in the area, hoping you're going to take the opportunity to check that out and see all the meet and greet opportunities that arise and all the decorations that they're going to be adding. I'm sure it's going to be a huge addition to the park over at California Adventure. Now, the other thing that was announced regarding the Disney parks were the resorts, and we saw a few new resorts that were announced. I think 2 were expected, and 1 we didn't know too much about before this in regards to rumors, but we did hear that the rumors about the Star Wars Hotel are indeed true. We don't know when it's going to come out, and they didn't release too many details about it, but we do get this feeling that it is going to be a really immersive experience, combining what is a luxury resort with a really in-depth, again, immersive, not to overuse that word, but immersive experience with Star Wars theming, so you can truly feel like you are living in the world of Star Wars in a galaxy far, far away. All the windows from the resort will have views of space. I'm sure there will be some battleships out in the background that you could take a look at, whether those be the Death Star or anything else that they might have for you to look at out there. Definitely going to be some restaurants and shops that are all themed to Star Wars, experiences all themed to Star Wars in this hotel, as well as, from what it sounds like, costumes for guests. So when you stay there, you will actually be able to dress as if you are in a Star Wars galaxy, which is a definite unique idea that we have not seen at too many resorts in the world before. So this is definitely introducing a whole new concept of the hotel stay experience at Disney, and even beyond that. I think this is just going to be the start of what we see with Disney bringing these experiences to the hotels for what I'm sure is going to be a huge price tag, but it will be something that I know a lot of Star Wars fans will probably reach into their wallets and pay to stay in that type of experience, whether it's for one night or for many nights. And if you are someone who is looking forward to Star Wars Hotel, if you plan to stay there, definitely let us know in the comments below. If you are not planning to stay there, definitely let us know as well. But the other 2 resorts that were announced, one was still at Walt Disney World, that 15th Disney Vacation Club resort being Disney Riviera Resort Hotel. This again was another rumor that was pretty much confirmed from D23. We heard there might be some DVC resort coming to the Caribbean Beach Resort area, and it sounds like this is actually going to be on that exact plot of land. So those rumors did come true. They didn't release too many other details than that, other than the fact that there will be a rooftop lounge where you can take a look at the nighttime spectaculars from Epcot and from Disney's Hollywood Studios, if it still even has that name when this resort opens. So whether that be a restaurant or a lounge, there's definitely be something on that top floor that you could have a really terrific bird's eye view of that section of Walt Disney World. And the last resort that was announced was actually at an international park over at Disneyland Paris. We heard there's going to be this Hotel New York, the Art of Marvel, bringing this theme of a contemporary art museum and the world of Marvel, bringing them together into a resort experience over at Disneyland Paris. And that is going to have, I think, Iron Man as well as some Avengers themes there that guests can experience, and a lot of artwork and memorabilia that guests can take a look at who stay there or who visit that resort. But bringing it back to Walt Disney World and resorts there, the other big news was regarding the new transportation, first of which is already available at Walt Disney World, which is the cleverly punned minivan service, which is, of course, vans that have mini polka dot decor all over them. And from what we heard, Disney was creating this to compete with Uber, because a lot of guests were requesting Uber rides from the parks to their resorts rather than wait for the bus or take the monorail, especially if they know that the buses are backed up, just to call an Uber. So this is Disney's response to that, and they'll have, for $20 plus tip, you can get anywhere across Walt Disney World. So you can, I saw already some of the pictures, and it looks like they have a lot of minivans available. So if you plan on using this service, if you think it's worth $20, and again, this is to go anywhere at Walt Disney World, they'll drop you off right at the front of the park. Let us know if you plan to use this, or if you continue to plan to use the free transportation, whether that's the buses or monorail or ferry or the other new transportation that will be coming to Walt Disney World, although we don't have an official date, sometime very soon. Yeah, minivan. Of course, being the Disney Skyliner. So this was another rumor that we heard, that Disney was filing patents to, or not patents, but filing the work to actually go ahead and build on these construction sites. And we did get confirmation that there will be this Skyliner, which will have a real feel of the old Skyway over at Magic Kingdom in Disneyland, that will transport you from Disney's Pop Century Resort, from Disney's Art of Animation Resort, or from Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort to Disney's Hollywood Studios, as well as to the International Gateway over at Epcot, which by extension would then connect you to Disney's Boardwalk and to Disney's Yacht and Beach Club resorts. There's a lot of controversy around this. Some people feel it's going to be an eyesore, especially as you look from Epcot and maybe see the Skyliner in the background, or maybe behind the resorts. It could potentially be an eyesore. I'm sure Disney will take that into consideration, but others are really looking forward to this, and it's going to make transportation to these two parks from Caribbean Beach, from Pop Century, and from Art of Animation that much easier. So let us know what you think about Disney's Skyliner. Is this something that you plan to use if you're staying at those resorts? Are you looking forward to it? Do you think it's going to ease congestion at all, especially with all the extensions coming to Epcot and expansions coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios? Or is this something that you're really not looking forward to at all? So definitely let us know what you think about the Disney Skyliner. And the last big transportation news for all those cruise fans is that Disney Cruise Line is adding 3 ships to their fleet starting in 2021, and then in 2022, and then in 2023. This news is so new that they do not yet have any names for these ships. They only confirm that they are going to be larger in size than the current Disney cruise ships, and they did not announce any itinerary or anything. So what are you expecting? Do you think that this is going to be based out of Port Canaveral? Is this going to be based out of the West Coast, out of New York, out of Texas? Or are they going to even bring this international to the Mediterranean, or to Shanghai, or to, I should say, to Hong Kong or Tokyo? Where do you think that this is going to go? Is this going to stay in the US, or, hey John, or is this going to be itineraries internationally? And are you looking forward to taking those Disney Cruise Line new experiences starting in 2021? My guess would be John, from what I know about John, is definitely going to take the Disney Cruise Line starting in 2021. And the last big announcement that at least I'll cover is regarding the movies, because there was a lot, and my throat is already getting parched from all these announcement updates, was regarding the movies. So we see a lot of new Pixar movies coming out that... some of them we knew Coco is going to be coming out on November 22nd of this year, and we also knew that The Incredibles 2 was going to be coming out, and they announced that June 15th, 2018 is going to be the date that we can expect to see The Incredibles 2 in theaters. Also with Pixar, we had already heard about Toy Story 4, and they did confirm that it's going to be in theaters on June 21st of 2019. But the one thing that we had not heard before D23 that they did announce was this idea of a suburban fantasy movie, untitled, that we have no details about except the fact that it's going to take place in, of course, this real fantasy suburban world. It's going to have these elves and unicorns, but unlike the typical unicorns that we're used to, they're going to be these ravenous creatures that are going to be in the suburbs. It's a very unique concept, but I'm sure, knowing Pixar, we can expect nothing but the most creative ideas coming out of this. And I think that with any announcement that they've made, I've always gone, how are they going to pull that off? But they always manage to pull off these movies. So, of those Pixar movies, which are you most looking forward to? I know there's a lot of excitement around The Incredibles 2, a lot of excitement around Coco, and some excitement and some controversy over Toy Story 4, whether that's going to be a good movie or not. And I don't even know if there's enough to tell about this suburban fantasy movie, whether we think what we think about this movie. But again, knowing Pixar, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing, amazing movie. The other movies that were announced were they already announced Wreck-It Ralph 2, where Ralph breaks the internet, but we know it's coming November 21st of 2018, so we just have a year and a half to wait before this movie comes out. And the big thing was that we are going to see a Disney, or Vanellope von Schweetz is going to visit a Disney website with all of the Disney princesses, and they're going to be all the original voices for the Disney princesses. Jasmine, Merida, Pocahontas, I forgot, there was Ariel, Belle, all of them are going to be reprising, all those actresses are going to be reprising their roles as those princesses for this movie. So, and there was a big viral photo that went around of a selfie of all the princesses. So that was something that I know made a lot of Disney enthusiasts really happy to see. But how do you feel about Wreck-It Ralph 2? Are you excited to see it? Are you still skeptical as to what this plot is going to be? I've heard both ways, that people are excited about it, people are skeptical about it. What are your thoughts? But the biggest thing that I think most people are wondering is going to be whether it's going to be good or not are these live actions. We've already seen, of course, the Cinderella remake. We've seen The Jungle Book. We've seen Maleficent, which is pretty much a remake of Sleeping Beauty in a different way. And we know for sure now that we're also going to see Aladdin. We're going to see Dumbo, and Dumbo is going to be directed by by none other than Tim Burton. His name completely slipped my mind for a second. The Lion King, it's just going to be by Jon Favreau, who did The Jungle Book and Iron Man and a lot of other great movies. And we also know that there's going to be a Jungle Cruise movie with none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So that should be an interesting movie as well, and I'm sure it's going to completely change the attraction over at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. So we are excited to see what they have to come out with the live actions and the animated movies. And of course, the big ones that everyone is really looking forward to in the next couple of years are Star Wars: The Last Jedi coming out in December, as well as Avengers: Infinity War that's going to be coming out in 2019. John can't wait for the Jungle Cruise movie. What do you think about The Rock being in it? Because he typically brings movies into multi-million dollar box office hits, but we'll see what he can do with this one. But between all those announcements, I definitely want to know from you, now that I've rattled off about 50, and I didn't even cover them all, what are you most excited to see? You think it will make the movie? I think, I hope so. I definitely hope so. Joanna loves The Rock. Yeah, so maybe this is the overall consensus is this is going to be a really good cast announcement for the Jungle Cruise movie. I just have no idea what it's going to be about. I'm sure they're going to take it into the jungle. It's going to be some sort of expedition, adventure movie. But I'm still wondering what the general plot line is going to be for this thing. It should be interesting. But what else? I mean, between the attractions, I want to know what attractions were you most excited to see? Are you excited about the Tron coaster? Are you excited about the additions coming to Epcot? We know we see Ratatouille coming to Epcot. We see the Guardians of the Galaxy coming to Epcot. We're having a new movie from China. I know everybody that was their absolute favorite, that they're going to have a digital version of the Circle Vision movie that's currently in China. Some revisions to refurbishments to Mission Space, giving it a little bit of a fresher touch. The new restaurant over at the Future World as well in the Mission Space. And the other thing is there anything that you were expecting to see that you didn't see? So one of the big things that I was expecting to see was the Imagination Pavilion, and I did not hear any announcements regarding Imagination. Lori's looking forward to Ratatouille. John is looking forward to Eating in Space, The Final Frontier. I can only imagine what menu items they have in store for us over there. It's probably going to be an eclectic menu for sure, knowing what Disney's been doing lately. Other than that, so it looks like a lot of excitement over Epcot. For Hollywood Studios and / Disneyland, Space Meatballs. I'm sure that might be something. But over at the at Disneyland and Disney Hollywood Studios, we know we're going to see Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which I've always said it sounds a little bit like an Android phone combining the Galaxy and the Edge. Freeze-dried. Yeah, they might have some freeze-dried ice cream over at that space restaurant. Curious to know what they're going to call it, too. Mission Dining or something. That is a Disney cup I'm drinking from. This is my favorite cup for Tomorrowland. Space Mountain on one side, and I don't want to spill on my laptop, the Submarine Voyage on the other. I'm drinking iced tea. And of course I had to drink out of this. For the movies, I saw a lot of excitement around The Incredibles 2. And I'm glad that they're going to have the same cast. I don't know if you guys saw the announcement, but it was very funny. I always love the fact that Brad Bird is the voice of Edna Mode. And he did a great job reprising that role for the announcement. We also saw, of course, Craig T. Nelson. We saw Samuel L. Jackson. We saw all the stars of The Incredibles 2 coming back on stage to confirm that they are indeed going to be in The Incredibles 2. And we heard it's going to take off exactly where the first Incredibles movie left off. The family's going to find out that Jack has powers, that he has a ton of powers. So they definitely gave a little more information about that. There was a lot of excitement around Coco coming out in just a couple of months in November. So that one I'm seeing more and more. It looks like it's going to be a great Pixar movie. I'm just hoping that it follows through and it does end up being another Pixar classic. Hopefully on their A list and not their B list, as some fans separate between the Pixar movies. Was there anything else that you guys were expecting to see that you didn't see out of D23? I think especially with Epcot, we were expecting to hear a lot of announcements, and Bob Chapek mentioned recently that Epcot was really the next park. We saw Magic Kingdom first get its huge overhaul. We saw the new Fantasylands, and also took over Mickey's Toontown Fair. We then saw Disney's Animal Kingdom, which brought Pandora, the world of Avatar, which just opened this past year. So kind of Disney's Animal Kingdom, for the most part, saw its major refurbishment. Although I'd expect there's going to be a lot more coming to that park. We also saw that over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, of course, what's happening now that the park is mostly under construction. We're seeing Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, that's going to be in 2019, and Toy Story Land in 2018. So Epcot was really the next park that was going to be getting that TLC, and Epcot has not had a major refurbishment in many years. So the fact that they announced these changes to Mission Space and to the France Pavilion and to the China Pavilion, and of course the big one being Ellen's Energy Adventure being replaced by the Guardians of the Galaxy e-ticket attraction, which I'm still not sure is going to be a roller coaster or something else. That Slinky Dog roller coaster looks really cool. If you've seen the construction photos, which I'll try to go back and post them into the comments after this live video, that is looking like it's really coming along really well. John, where are you joining us from, by the way? Are you in Orlando? I already know the answer to this. John goes to Disney quite often. But yeah, so I was saying in Epcot yes, you are in Orlando. We saw lucky you. We saw a lot of announcements over at Epcot, but there was more that I was expecting to see, and they did show this concept art for Blue Sky concept art for what the park is going to look like once they really finalize the plans for Epcot. But what were you guys expecting to see? Because I was really and Dustin from Cali. Hey, Dustin. I was really hoping to see the Imagination Pavilion announcing something. We had heard some rumors that there might be, back in the day, there were rumors that Phineas and Ferb might join the crew over at Imagination, might join Figment, but more recently it seems like Inside Out was the contender to redo the Imagination Pavilion. I was also hoping to see some more about the nighttime shows, because Illuminations has been around for a long time now. I think in its current versions, about 15 years, if not more than that. But I know that the big rumor, since it really has not gone through a major refurbishment that long, is that we're going to be seeing a new show there. There was no announcement for that. Hey, Dustin. It popped up from my feed via John. Yeah, it's going great. It's a beautiful day. Happy that we got D23 last week and a lot of announcements. Where are you? You're normally from California. Are you a Disneyland goer? A local annual pass holder for Disneyland's? Or are you really located somewhere else? And also, Dustin, if you do not like our page, I definitely encourage you to do so, because I'm hoping there will be more of these Facebook Live videos in the future. And of course, you can listen to our podcast. Speaking of which, a shameless plug, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., there will be a podcast episode going live. I had 2 guests join me from across the country to talk about D23 and what our thoughts were regarding all the announcements that came between the attractions and the resorts, what we're most looking forward to, what surprised us, what we were hoping to see but didn't see, talk a little bit about the Disney Cruise Line and the 3 new ships that are coming. We also know there's going to be a new live stage show that's coming to the Disney Cruise Line based on the live action Beauty and the Beast, which is the other movie I forgot to mention that was a live action already created. But yeah, there's a lot that's going to be coming to Disney in the next few years. Especially Walt Disney World with the 50th, that's going to be in 2021. I'd expect that to be really big, and Bob Chapek promised us 50 either new attractions or refurbished attractions that are going to be coming to Walt Disney World, and that is a lot to undertake in just a few years. So Dustin freelances in TV production in LA and works as needed with broadcast production at Disneyland, originally from Orlando. Very cool. So you go to Disneyland not just for play but for work, which is even better. So that's really cool. But for those of you who are going to be watching the recorded version of this, I definitely want to hear from you as well. I know we have a few people chatting with us live, but I want to know, what are you most excited to see from D23 that was announced? What's the first thing on your list when you go to Walt Disney World with all these announcements from Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios and Epcot and the resorts? Do you plan to stay at the Star Wars Hotel? Do you plan to stay at Disney's Riviera Resorts? Are you a DVC member? Are you going to actually purchase, or is this going to convince you to become a Disney Vacation Club member and actually buy over at Disney's Riviera Resort? And I also want to know what surprised you from the announcements. What did you expect to see? What didn't you see that you were hoping to hear from D23? What movies are you most excited for that are going to be coming out? So let us know in the comments the answers to these questions. Let us know where you are going to be listening in from or watching from. And as I said, definitely check out our podcast episode, which if you're watching the recorded version is going live or went live Sunday, July 23rd at 9 a.m. Dustin, I can't really see your profile picture because it's a little small from here, but not happy about the fate of the Great Movie Ride. That is... yeah, that's a controversial topic, and I had heard rumors about the Great Movie Ride closing, and I think a lot of fans had within the last few weeks, and that really just came out, I'd say, within the last month, this idea that the Great Movie Ride, especially after its last refurbishments and the sponsorship with TCM, is going to be closing. And I was very confused when I heard those rumors. And then when Bob Chapek talked at the Disney Parks panel about this Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway, that started to make a little more sense to me. And Dustin, I know that you're not happy about it, but I'm curious to know what you think about Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, because from everything that they announced, this concept of 2.5D, taking a 3D ride but taking away the need for glasses, I think is pretty cool. From the video that they showed, from the concept art that they showed, this looks like it's going to be a really cool attraction. I don't know, you might be a completely the opposite and not be looking forward to this at all, but and you'll hear this in the podcast if you listen to it as well, because we talk a little bit about this. Of all the rides that could possibly replace the Great Movie Ride, the Imagineers really had to think hard about what could replace the iconic center attraction for Disney Hollywood Studios. I mean, that would be the equivalent in a way of taking away Spaceship Earth at Epcot and replacing it with something. It's a pretty major attraction. It's the cornerstone attraction, really, of Disney's Hollywood Studios. So I think this idea of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, to me, as a longtime lifelong Disney fan and a little bit of a nostalgic, but a Disney realist at the same time, I thought it was a really noteworthy and worthwhile attraction to replace the Great Movie Ride. If there's anything that's going to replace such a classic attraction, it's got to be something bigger and better. And the fact that we're taking it all the way back to Mickey Mouse, where there really is not an attraction based on Mickey, is a great idea in my opinion. The fact that there's going to be more hidden Mickeys here than anywhere else. I know some hidden Mickeys fans, and they have the books and they go to the parks, and I think even I'm trying to remember the Imagineer that announced it, I think it was Kevin Rafferty, said that there's going to be more hidden Mickeys here than you could possibly find riding this over and over and over again. I accept that challenge, and I will ride it over and over and over again. But I think he's right in the sense it's going to take a lot of rides until you actually end up finding all those hidden Mickeys. And also this idea there's going to be a new theme song for that attraction was another thing that perked my ears up a little bit. So he talked about Pirates of the Caribbean, of course, having Yo Ho, Yo Ho, Pirates Life for Me, and It's a Small World having It's a Small World as its theme, and Haunted Mansion having Grim Grinning Ghosts. But other than that, there's really no new attraction at Disney that has its own original theme song. Castle of Progress has There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, but there hasn't been a new attraction with an original theme that's not based in a movie in quite some time. So the fact that we're going to get a new theme song, I'm really curious to hear what it's going to be. I am hoping it's going to be a song that does get stuck in your head over and over and over again, because that's part of what makes Disney's theme songs so great, and they're good songs. So, Dustin, I can tell you're definitely not a fan of the the new attraction. Still love that Great Movie Ride. But the other thing is that the Great Movie Ride is really mostly about movies that don't have a lot to do with Disney. The park, of course, had to do with the world of movies, but bringing something much more Disney-like to the park, I think, is going to do much more for Disney's Hollywood Studios in terms of branding, in terms of that overall Disney experience. Thanks, John. Now I have that stuck in my head. So we're talking a lot about Walt Disney World. What do you guys think about Disneyland? Are you excited about Marvel Lands? Hey, Brian. Brian, I know, is joining us all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm hoping that it is not too hot there, because it is the middle of July right now. But I have not checked the weather where you are, Brian. So for Brian and everyone else who's just joining us, we're talking about all the D23 announcements. John is looking forward to Halloween coming to Radiator Springs, and I think that should be pretty cool. The concept art looks interesting. It's the humidity. I think John may have it worse in Orlando, and Dustin, since he's in Orlando right now too. But up here in New York, it's pretty hot too, and very humid. It's very humid today. But to catch everybody up to speed, we're talking about D23. We covered a lot of the changes that are coming to these parks, and talking about now Disneyland, what we're excited to see between Marvel Land, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Pixar Pier, the moving of the Pixar Play Parade, bringing back the Paint the Night Parade, and the new fireworks spectacular that's going to be coming to Disneyland, which they have not really given too much info about either. Dustin said it looks like really awesome technology, just wish it was going someplace else. Yeah, I know that for the most part, I think we were hoping that D23 this year, we were expecting, because of all the rumors, there were going to be a lot of attractions taken away. For the most part, I was happy that most of the announcements were about additions rather than refurbishments or changing things. The only really attractions that we lost, to your point, were the Great Movie Ride and Ellen's Energy Adventure. Between the two, I think I agree with you, Dustin, that the Great Movie Ride had longevity to it, but the Ellen's Energy Adventure, I love that ride. But it's dated, and you can tell every time you go on it, it is incredibly 90s. The conversation is dated. It's a controversial topic for many to begin with, and although the original intent of the pavilion was all about energy, I'm curious to see what they do with Guardians of the Galaxy. They say it's going to be an e-ticket. The rumors have always been it's going to be a roller coaster, but I haven't seen any concept art revealing that there's going to be a change to the to the building, or an addition of a show building behind it, but perhaps that's in the cards. But I'm definitely curious to know what you guys think. Is it going to be a roller coaster? Is it going to be a screen-based attraction? Is it going to be more of a walkthrough? I mean, it definitely sounds like an e-ticket. We know it's not going to be Mission Breakout. John naps during the energy ride. That's I have done that before, especially on those hot summer days in Orlando. Yes, the riverboats and Disneyland Railroad coming back next week. I'm excited for that too. And I don't know if you heard that. If any of you saw the Voices of the Park panel, they revealed that. My gosh, I'm forgetting his name. The same guy who does. I have to go back and recall, but one of the voice actors on the panel actually gave a little sample of the fact that he is the new voice of the Disneyland Railroad coming back the end of this month. I'm excited. I don't know about you, Dustin, but I'm excited to actually check out the construction from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge from the Disneyland Railroad, and perhaps from the riverboats as well. I remember riding the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad over at Disneyland too, and you can see the construction of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That's a good reason to ride if you are out on the West Coast, to take a look at the groundwork being laid for Star Wars Land over at Disneyland. The big thing for me was thinking about Pixar Pier, because Disney's California Adventure has seen so many refurbishments over the last several years, especially since 2011. We saw the addition of Cars Land, we saw a retheming already of Paradise Pier, and of Soarin' and Condor Flats in general. Of course, the retheming of Buena Vista Street, which was never there before. But what do you guys think about Pixar Pier? Because Paradise Pier is one of those real iconic parts of Disney's California Adventure, but I don't think many people were attached to it. And the big thing that I'm wondering is, are they going to replace California Screamin', or at least retheme California Screamin' to something Pixar related? And I'm trying to wrap my head around what would even make sense for Pixar Pier for California Screamin'. They already have Toy Story Mania, so that is kind of covered. We know there's going to be new experiences coming to Pixar Pier, new entertainment, new meet and greets, which will make a lot of sense. But they definitely have to do some retheming there, and I'm really curious to know what they're going to end up doing to it. And again, they just rethemed this, so I'm curious to know what you guys think. Is this going to be worth it? Are you skeptical about it? Are you looking forward to it? Do you think it makes sense? And what do you think is going to be the fate of California Screamin'? And is it going to see a retheming, or is it going to go away, or is it going to just stay the way it is? So again, if you're watching in the recorded version and you've watched all the way through this far, thank you for watching. Be sure, if you don't already, to like our page and to follow us on Facebook. Definitely subscribe to our podcast. We have right now 4 episodes that are live. The 5th episode is going live tomorrow, which is Sunday, July 23rd. It's going to be live at 9 in the morning. That's Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on the East Coast, that'll be 9 a.m. If you're on the West Coast, you get to wake up at 6 a.m. if you want and listen to the podcast episode. But we're going to talk all about D23 and expect many more awesome podcast episodes to come in the future, and a lot more to come on Facebook. And if you know anybody such as John sharing with Dustin who might enjoy the podcast, definitely feel free, and please do share our podcast on our Facebook page. And if there are any topics that you want to see, let me know. At this point, I definitely want to hear from all of you and what topics you would like to hear covered between Disney parks and movies and resorts and Star Wars, Marvel, anything, Lucasfilm, anything that has to do with Disney at all. Brian is skeptical about Pixar Pier, and it sounds like a quick fix. Well, we know that they've done that before, such as with Tower of Terror over at Disney's California Adventure, and it was just down for, not even a full year to change it to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. But, I mean, at the same time, that attraction has now had 7-hour waits. So, and they're getting extra magic hours over at Disney's California Adventure just so that extra guests can actually enjoy that attraction with the long waits it's been having. So I think Disneyland and Disney California Adventure are going to get incredibly crowded, and they already have been, but starting 2019, I see, and I know that Disneyland's Star Wars Land is, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is opening before Walt Disney World's. I think that park is going to be overrun with guests, so it's possible, and I think that Disney might want to think about, I know they're already going to be building an extra parking structure, but they're going to have to really account for all the extra guest flow. And I'm just thinking about all those guests walking through Disneyland Park. There are narrow pathways to that park to begin with. So it is, it's going to be interesting to see. So it sounds like mostly skepticism regarding Pixar Pier. I'm mostly excited, but again, just kind of waiting out to see what else they announce for this. Guardians of the Galaxy wait sounds technical, not based on demand. That's a good point. I'm trying to think, is the tower there has 4 or 6? It has, I think it's 6. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. 6 different load areas. It might only be 4. I think it's only 4 now I'm thinking about it. So it would have the same capacity for sure as Tower of Terror. I think it's interesting how they repurposed that attraction. It seems like, I haven't been on it yet, but it seems like it's a lot of fun. And thankfully, it sounds like Tower of Terror in Walt Disney World, which is the coveted Tower of Terror, is going to be safe for at least the near future. Yeah, Brian, they do things, when they do focus, they do them really well. I think that Pandora is a good example of that. Although some say that it's small and there's really not a lot there, the quality of it is outstanding. So if they take that same attention to detail, especially Flight of Passage and people calling it the greatest attraction they've ever been on, they can take that attention to detail and theme and story and bring it to these new attractions, these new areas, they're going to be fine. Dustin says DCA is starting to become Disney kinda California Adventure. I agree. To be honest, they might eventually end up re-theming that, because you're right, originally it was all about California, and when Michael Eisner pitched that idea, I think the idea was this tribute to the state of California, and that it would bring in a lot of tourists and guests to Disneyland from all over the country and even all over the world. But you're right now there's not a ton that is dedicated to California, especially when we have Paradise Pier being replaced by Pixar Pier. All that's left really is Condor Flats, if they keep the Sunset Boulevard area, and Buena Vista Street, and that's about it. So I sense, if anything, they will change the name of that park. I would not be surprised if they called it, I can't even imagine, but some other version of, it's in a way becoming another Hollywood Studios with California mixed in there. So I think it does need to do a little soul searching and figure out what it's going to be. So I think we've been chatting for 50 minutes now, which is longer than I expected for an initial Facebook Live, but I was really happy that you guys, Disney Licensing Adventure, yes, Disney Acquisition Park could be the title of it. We'll take Lucasfilm and Pixar and Marvel and just sprinkle them all into Disney's California Adventure, shake it up, and call it Disney's Licensing Adventure. That would be something. But I want to thank everyone who's watching live for actually coming on and watching live with us. If you're watching the recorded version of this, again, thank you for coming on to the live, to the recorded portion and watching this. And even though you're not watching live, leave some comments below. Let us know what you are excited to see from D23 regarding the announcements. What are you most excited to see that they announced? What are you hoping that they would announce that they didn't? What are you still skeptical about? What questions do you have? I will respond to absolutely everything that I can, but I'm curious to know what you all think about D23. And as a reminder, episode number 5 is going live tomorrow, Sunday, July 23rd at 9 a.m., all about D23. So I encourage you all to listen there, whether you're listening on iTunes or Podbean or Google Play. We're on all 3 of those sites. Subscribe, leave us a rating on Facebook, on iTunes. Let us know what you want to see in a future episode. If you ever want to be on the show, definitely reach out to me. And you can send me an email at imagineerpodcast@gmail.com. Definitely curious to hear from all of you. And lastly, I'll plug that you can follow us on Twitter at Imagineer Audio. Imagineer Podcast is actually too long of a Twitter handle for Twitter. So we are at Imagineer Audio over at Twitter. And lastly, if you're watching this video and you don't like our page, I don't know why, but you should. So be sure to like our page, engage with us, follow us, and let us know what you want to see either on the Facebook page or on a podcast episode. I am hoping there's going to be more Facebook Live to come. And again, I want to thank everyone who watched live for tuning in. But I hope you have a really awesome day, especially to Dustin and John and Brian and Lori and Joanna, wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing you guys again in a future Facebook Live. So have a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon.